What's diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Companies and schools and administration's efforts to include a lot of people who have historically not been included.
Include them in what?
I disagree with DEI completely. I think it's...
Oh, wait, hang on. Don't
Well,
say,
Mike,
don't go there. No, you don't want to hear that. Well, we'll talk about that.
Okay.
Just tell me what you see, like what it is. Have you heard it talked about in India?
Yes, very much so, actually. So we do civics. I don't know how to describe it here. Generally talk less about race because, well, India is mostly brown people.
What are some problems that, we're putting a lot of energy into diversity and inclusion and belonging. What do you think might be some problems with that?
It's not to any one thing in particular. It's to the idea of what it stands for.
The idea of what it is. Okay. What's diversity, equity, and inclusion? What is this? How do you define this? And sometimes people say belonging, so I put belonging in brackets.
Companies and schools and administration's efforts to include a lot of people who have historically not been included.
Include them in what?
To my understanding, is to give them resources and things that they need so that they can have the same resources as those that already have it.
Okay, somebody else.
As an international student, I would agree with belonging. When I came here, it was obviously really new to me because my parents aren't from here. But yeah, I think belonging is a big part of diversity and equity so that you have your resources, like he said. And it's like a community that you find. Yeah, and Penn State's been pretty good with that, I think, so far.
So for you, as someone who's international, and you work in global programs, right?
Yes, I work for Penn State Global.
So you're meaning people from all over the world.
Yes.
And you are, okay. How about would one of you want to weigh in on what this is for people who don't know? And
Yeah, well, for me, since I was born in the U.S. and I grew up in the U.S., it wasn't really as big of an impact, so to say. Obviously, I am not, Caucasian, and my parents are immigrants, so I grew up in environment at home that was very different than in school and public institutions. So it was diversity, equity, and inclusion is just I feel like I see more, I don't know how to describe this, but it seems more intentional when I'm in school or a public institution, because then I feel sort of that difference more, because although diversity, equity, inclusion is it's a good thing, you're trying to make people feel welcome and things like that, it can also
hang on, before you go there.
Yeah.
You put the but in there when you said intentional. What do you mean by intentional?
Well, that's what I was about to say.
Okay.
I was about to go.
Right,
should
okay,
I go through with that, or?
All right. No. Hey, listen. By the way, y'all, this is really important that you understand this about a facilitator, which is what I'm doing. If you remember from last class, sometimes we cut people because I'm going to anticipate where she might go. And I'm like, whoa, hang on, we're going to go to the next thing. Or maybe I just want to stop her, because if she keeps going, I want to go back to something she said. And so you're gonna hear me sometimes cutting people off. So sometimes people will tweet out or something, hey, let them talk, because I cut people off. It's no. This is the nature of a facilitated conversation that we move and stuff. Why don't I? We'll just pause there.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mac, is there anything you would add? Yeah, what is it for you? What do you see?
I disagree with DEI completely. I think it's...
Oh, wait, hang on. Don't go there. No, you don't want to hear that. Well, we'll talk about that. Okay. Just tell me what you see, what it is.
Race-based hiring quotas.
Race-based, just race?
Yes, or skin color, most importantly, because I think it can be used... Because people's backgrounds are obviously, like we talked about last time, like when you said Barack Obama, like,
Yeah.
you know, he's half white, half black, but everyone just sees him as black. And I think that DEI really plays into that, where it's just based on what you look like.
Okay, what about, but is it, diversity is so the first thing you think about is race, but is diversity is other things though also, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, so it's also, it's used as a method of including people of other sexual orientations. I mean, what I think of it is like the issues that I have with it. I think it's forcing quotas of persons that while sacrificing merit and skill.
All right, we'll come back to that. Dude, do you understand? Can I just say something here that's really awesome? Mac pretty quickly assesses that we're having a conversation here, okay? And what's so awesome is that he's taking this voice of so many people, and in a college classroom, in a university, that is what you just said is expected to be an unpopular voice. Am I right on that? Would you expect that to come out of somebody at a college?
I would not disagree with that. I think that, yeah, it is like regarded in society as like an unpopular opinion, or like more extreme people would say that it's wrong, but it is something that I would like expect.
At a university, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is why people enjoy watching this class, because they feel like they're going to get, you know, a wide range of perspectives. All right, listen. What's it look like in India, by the way?
I come from Bangalore, which is like, it is a big city.
Yep.
So we actually have a lot of people from across the globe. So diversity is like, it's a regular part of life, I think.
Do you talk about it? Is it talked about? Have you heard it talked about in India?
Yes, very much so, actually. So we do civics. I don't know how to like describe it here, but we do that to kind of like put that together. So we generally talk less about race because, well, India is mostly brown people. But yeah, we talk more about like sex, sexual orientation, where you're from. So in India, we're split up into like many different states. I don't know if a lot of people know that. So there are a lot of different people. We look very different, and we speak a lot of different languages, cultures.
Many languages, many cultures.
Yeah, exactly. So I think diversity is a big part of India, and we learn unity in diversity. Like that's a big part of what we learn.
Diversity.
Yeah.
And by the way, if I can say something, when we do measures of skin pigmentation. And the way you do that is you take a measure of skin underneath the arm, because underneath the arm almost never gets any light. So that's like when you know that's the actual correct pigmentation. On average, the most darkly pigmented people in the world that we find on average are in South Asia, right? So we don't call you black, but
yeah, we're South Indian, so that we're near the equator. So I think that's probably why.
It's just it's that, and it's just that's the way migration patterns we're talking. Can you go to the next slide? So this guy, his name is Robbie Starbuck. This was an article in CNN last week. It says the right-wing activists. This is CNN, so that's meant to be a little bit poking, right? Right wing is poking at it, riding a wave of opposition to DEI, and he's really, he's part of this group that's pushing a lot of corporations and so on to back off of some of their DEI measures, right? What do you think that people like him sees?
I think people like him are kind of like seeing what he's seeing, in a way where I'm just gonna put myself in his shoes.
Yep.
A bunch of people that don't deserve to be there are getting the spot there. That's kind of what I think they're seeing. If I'm looking at it through his eyes, when they see people being put in because of their skin color, they are getting in there not through merit, but because of who their parents were.
Okay, but what else, right? Because what we're looking at is diversity, right? Because you've already, that's, this is very much what Sambi said, like in India, there's so much diversity. So, the DEI is saying, hey, diversity is good, right? That's what it's saying. Diversity is a good thing. Equity, Now that's where you're getting at something. Equity, inclusion, right? And then belonging. So what else is he saying? Because you're just responding to one thing. What else is he saying about DEI that's a problem? Think
Not sure.
diversity, right?
Diversity?
Yeah.
Are you trying to say that he doesn't want diversity?
No, well, I don't know. Like, what would it be? Because he's not saying, if he's saying DEI, it's diversity. You four people are diverse here, right? Okay. Equity, you're going to be, you're all going to get, because you're here, you're all going to get, your point for volunteering or whatever, right? Okay, that's good. Inclusion, right? We're going to balance it out, like kind of like 25% of the time. We're going to include all of you and all of your perspectives. And the belonging, here we are all together, right? So what problems what's the problem do you think that he has with all of those things? Because clearly it's not just one, it's all of them. So does that make sense? So what would be his problem with diversity? He's not saying, hey, I don't have a problem with diversity. I got a problem with equity, but he must have a problem with diversity and inclusion also. So what do you think might be his problem? Think about that. We'll go to
I don't necessarily think it's that he has like a problem with like all three. It's possible, but I think that because DEI is the name of this kind of movement, like Mac was saying about how he feels that people who don't have the qualifications are being put in these positions that should go to more qualified people. I think it's just it's this movement that he's opposed, and
the movement is mostly you think about that.
Well, I think in this context, maybe it is because it is in context to corporate America. So I think specifically because that's the context that we're put in, that is sort of the issue at hand, not necessarily that colored people deserve less rights or whatever.
Okay, Sanvi, how about you? What do you think some of his arguments might be?
I think he's more focused on diversity hires, like the kind that would fill a percentage.
Okay.
I don't know really.
Okay, let me ask you this. What do you think might be a problem with diversity? Not to forget about hiring, just diversity. What are some problems that, we're putting a lot of energy into diversity and inclusion and belonging. Like, what do you think might be some problems with that? Jeff, you can go.
Yeah, I could go. I think it's that one opinion isn't going to stick. There's going to be a whole bunch of different opinions, and I think that's a conflict that he probably doesn't want.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I think what he might want is that.
Wait, hang on. So, in other words, all this multiplicity of opinions or whatever it is, perspectives or cultures, might actually lead to division. Instead of unity, it might actually lead to greater division.
You want to put it that way? Sure.
Okay. All right. Okay, go ahead.
What I was just thinking is that he might want solely merit-based, that people only get in based off of merit.
Okay.
All
right.
That's all I could think of.
All right. When I think of the sum total of everything you just said about DEI, it is like organizations and businesses and schools that are really promoting diversity. Diversity is a really good thing. We want as many people from as many backgrounds and so on. We want inclusion. When we bring them into our organization or our company or whatever, we want all that diversity. And then we want to include them. We want to make sure they're really a part of what we're doing here. And we want them to feel a sense of belonging. Okay? Now, in addition, there's equity, so we got to be like, we want to make sure there's equitable treatment across the board, right? What might be problems with the diversity, inclusion, and belonging part? Because on one hand, those seem like, those would be really good things. But he's not saying, these activists aren't saying, I'm opposed to equity. They're saying, I'm opposed to DEI or DEIB. So they're opposed to all of it. So what about diversity that could be a problem?
I don't think they're opposed to any one of those ideas individually or as a whole. It's just that this phrase DEI has been turned into something that it's a political mechanism. It's not. It's like diversity, equity, and inclusion all on their own stand as good things. I mean, we have civil rights. You know, you can't discriminate somebody coming into your company simply because they're black, Asian, gay,
Got it,
anything.
yeah. Okay.
But I think these opposite. I mean, I have no idea. I've never seen that guy. I have no idea what he thinks. But the opposition, it's not like. It's not to any one thing in
Okay, got
particular.
it.
It's
Okay.
to the idea of what it
The
stands
idea of
for.
what it is. Okay.